because imagine, what I would further say to my client is that, let's say the orchestra just sounds off and the conductor will stop everything, get that first violin, right, to play the note. And then when everything is in tune, it's beautiful, right? It's magnificent. And so think about one thing like fear, which is huge, right? But it's also an illusion, but we feel it. And so if that one piece of fear was eliminated, how could your body move? How beautiful would things be in your life if we could just take that fear, address it, and remove it from that storage unit within the body?
Welcome to Harmonic Alignment, a podcast that explores the new frontier of energy medicine, bridging the gap between Western medicine and quantum physics, giving you easy and practical solutions. Guided by me, Dr. Larissa Sharipova, and me, Priscilla Koblenz. Join us on a journey discovering your harmonic alignment. On today's episode of Harmonic Alignment, we have a guest who's exploring the new frontier of energy medicine. Patricia Simone is a certified clinical hypnotist in transformational healing, an Energy4Life practitioner, and a master energy healer. She has trained in intuitive counseling and chakra medicine, and she helps her clients identify the root cause of distress, lifting the energetic blocks within her client's energy field, which allows them to experience complete mind, body, and soul healing. She has a diverse background in business and health, and she tells her story of how energy medicine has helped her along her journey. You're going to love this episode, and if you want to book a session with Patricia, visit her website, juleshypnosis.com. Enjoy.
I am so excited. I'm here today with Patricia Simone, and we are, I guess, sisters in the whole idea of energy and its ability and its effect on the physical, mental, and emotional body. But Patricia, you've had a very interesting background from business to hypnotherapy and now energy practitioners. You've done a lot of different modalities. What started your transformation into the healing side?
Well, honestly, when I first started working in the business realm, I really did feel kind of disappointed, like, oh, is this it? But I did that for a while, and there came a point in my life where I was not able to move forward. I had a lot of personal issues that were going on. I was very analytical. I went for some therapy to help me work through some of the struggles I was having at home. And traditional therapy didn't really help me after 3 years. It validated me, but this was really much deeper than therapy could really address. After about 3 years, I kind of gave up and thought, this is how I'm going to feel. Therapy couldn't help. I started seeing psychics and asking them what was I going to have to do to feel better physically. I just felt like the Walking Dead. Like I just really had a lot of down energy.
So it wasn't like you were having a major diagnosis of a health issue, but you just felt like a shallower version or just not alive or energized
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, I did feel emotionally flatlined. It was very heavy energy. I could show up in my life in the outer world, but as soon as I got home, everything was basically falling apart. I wasn't happy yet in my marriage. I didn't know how to get out of it. What was I going to do to shift it? I wasn't diagnosed with depression, but I was depressed for sure. I was not feeling alive in my home life. And so one of my neighbors got wind of it and asked me if I wanted to come into her office. Maybe she would help. And I was at the point where so many people get, like, I'll do anything to feel better. I didn't want to take any medication because I knew that wasn't really going to do anything. I was just going to prolong it. I figured if she thinks she could help me, sure, why not? I went into her office. She was a social worker. She was also a friend and neighbor, but her secret weapon was hypnosis and energy work. And I had no idea. It was like she just kept it under wraps. After my first session in her office, we talked. Then she asked me to close my eyes and gave me an induction. And I had to really trust a lot for the process to work. But after my first hypnotherapy and energy healing session, I was amazed at just finding one piece that clicked with me. And I said, when could I come back? I was hooked. I was hooked.
Oh, I love it. So you had this moment of healing that was like,
Oh, it was huge. And so she really helped me find out how that was affecting me physically, why I was feeling such low energy, and what my body was doing based on my thoughts and beliefs in order to keep me still. It was really life altering, to be honest with you. So I continued on for years. I then just got addicted to clearing and manifesting. When you see what your mind can do to your body to keep you still or in an old belief system, and your brain can then open up all these new doors and pathways. I thought, I really have to do this because so many people in the business world were very emotionally stunted and they couldn't make progress. And I was the person they were, bringing this to. And I didn't have skills back then. I talked to them, but I didn't have the hypnosis. So once I got the training, I could see, all right, people's biggest issue is fear and being imprisoned in their body by their fear. So that just became a trajectory to where we are today. Once you're opening up your mind, you just keep going,
I love
right?
that you said fear. I know that's been one of my big issues in life. Do you think fear is stuck in certain areas of the body?
If we look at bioenergetics, we can look at fear as being stored in the bladder and kidneys, a lot of fight or flight syndrome. However, fear is an illusion, right?
False evidence appearing real. That's what I,
Yes.
you can tell ourselves that, but that doesn't mean we get to actually live that.
It's true. Like the thoughts aren't real, but the body doesn't know the difference between what we're thinking and what's reality. And so the body's going to respond to what we're thinking and cause us to feel frozen for many of us, or in flight, run away, get out of here. Don't deal with it. Let me put it in a compartment. A lot of people do that. Eventually, it does catch up with the body and your life. And suddenly you just don't know, where do I begin? Where do I start?
I'm really fascinated because you took this into more of the business world where I would think people aren't always open to the understanding of the things that are going on in them unseen wise. How did you navigate that between someone is a CEO or running a company wanting to be open to the work of hypnotherapy and energy?
So there are a lot of people who operate in the left brain and don't see the connection. And for me, I just realized if they're not my client, then I'm not going to be able to work with them. But using the understanding and some forms of NLP, we're able to even have sessions without using an induction. So we're asking questions differently, and people then have different answers than they've had before. Because usually they keep asking the same thing over and over, and we're in a loop. And once you reframe a question that looks more in alignment with their ego can understand, then they're more likely to look at it differently. If we start to talk about the unseen world, they start getting shut down. You can see the wall coming up and you've lost them. So if you're working with somebody who's really just very analytical, you can see that they're not there yet. They're not willing to see how, oh, this really would not manifest in my body as an illness, right? I don't feel good, so I need medication. The medication will make me feel better, right? So it's always outside of them, not within.
So they're not taking ownership and they're thinking it's something out there that's the problem. And you're helping them to see that they can create the problem, make it worse or make it better, right? They have,
Yes, right. And if they're so closed off that they're blaming the outer world, they're not just ready yet to look at themselves.
I love that. So explain more of that journey because I think you really started connecting more and more that the mental and emotional was creating the physical.
Correct. So for me, not only was I feeling energetically flatlined or emotionally dark night of the soul, let's say, what also happened to me was in the mental that I had this pattern of overthinking. And my pattern of overthinking became habituated. And everything that I would overthink, I would get a solution, and then I would overthink the solution, talk myself out of it, and still be left where I started. And so many people have this issue, right? We get the little hamster wheel up there that just keeps running on and on and on. And even though we don't like where we are in life, we really don't get good solutions. And so how I started was learning how to quiet my mind. It came through meditation and learning to just be still. And when your mind is clear, I found that was when the real truth started to come in. You'd get wisdom that you couldn't think, right? Because it doesn't come from thinking. Thinking comes from history. If you keep doing the things you used to do, you know you're going to get the same results. So we talk ourselves out of creative solutions. When the mind's quiet and the wisdom comes in, inspiration, those are the aha moments. So that was kind of like, wow, I could control my brain to be quiet rather than let my brain control me.
I love what you just said because I use this line, no one can make me think a thought or feel a feeling. And once you realize that, that's
Mhm.
super empowering that I choose every thought and I choose every
Mhm.
feeling. I think most
Right.
of us, we were stuck in that idea that everything's happening to me or this person is causing me all these issues when
Right.
they can't make me think these things or feel.
Right.
I'm choosing that.
It's true. I mean, because once you see things from the bigger picture, you become an observer rather than taking it all in personally. You can then objectively look at another person and say, wow, I wonder where they're coming from, right? I'm not wounded anymore. It's not about me. This is about them. And so we learn to separate ourselves. And in the separation, we're empowering ourselves, which is powerful.
So when you bring someone into a hypnosis, because I assume you're programming in a new thought pattern in
Hmm.
hypnosis, are there
Right.
other ways you're moving the energy or consciously moving the energy in the body?
Yes. So when people are open and they're really coming in to do the deep work, once we use what we call an induction to induce relaxation and mind quietness, and we open up the door to the subconscious mind, we also use the wisdom of the body and or the inner eye to travel into the body, into the space where we're holding that story. And when the mind is quiet, we can feel it. And actually, we've never been trained to listen to the body before, but this really helps people say, oh, I'm feeling this in my heart. I'm so scared. My heart feels like it's being squeezed, right? And we can really get into the language of the body and the energy. So the mind will take us there, the subconscious will take us there. And people need to trust themselves that this is really the body talking and saying, I have a story to tell you. You didn't know how to deal with it before, but now's the time to deal with it, right? If we don't deal with it, we're going to have the same thing going on, repeating patterns. And people begin to listen. And it's emotional because our emotions are trapped, but it's a portal of releasing the emotions that have been just trapped and sitting there, for years, years. And once we develop this communication with the body, people are more apt to say, oh, that's why I've had this shoulder pain. It's psychosomatic, and we're just releasing that story. The shoulder feels better. I feel better. I've healed that emotional wound, which has created a belief system which has kept me stuck in the loop. So it's all connected.
So someone once told me when there is a physical issue in the body and you've tried a lot of different modalities that are the normal, physical therapy, you've tried massage, you've tried acupuncture, and you still have this issue that's ongoing, is sometimes you have to come and do the emotional side of it,
Mhm.
the unseen, to
Right.
actually finally heal the body.
Yes. So I can use one of my own stories. For an example, I would get sciatic nerve, for usually no apparent reason. I think people can relate to this one. You would go to the gym, you'd work out, your back would be fine. You'd bend over and pick up a sock that your child left on the floor, and suddenly your back is out, and you're like, how did that even happen? So, through my work with my hypnotherapist, we went back to the first time in my life that it happened that I had back pain. And it went back to a time when I was 12. I was complaining of back pain, and I think my both grandmothers were there, and they were telling me I was going to have the onset of my menstruation, and then lie down. It's just your back pain. It didn't feel like that to me, and I started to think, oh, look, even when I'm in pain, nobody cares. I have to do all this stuff, and they don't care. They're not really taking me seriously. So I laid on the floor with my knees bent and did whatever they suggested, but it didn't work. But it became the pattern that nobody cares. So as I became a parent, and you're doing all this work, you're working, you're running them around everywhere. I'm doing all this work. Doesn't anybody care? I had to start to monitor my thoughts, recognize what was I thinking before my back pain happened, before the sciatica kicked in, and realized, yes, my thoughts were very similar. Like, nobody cares. Like, why am I doing all this work? They don't care. And whoop, my back, there it went. I don't get back pain anymore, but we did in this session find out the belief system I created was that I'm doing all this stuff. Nobody cares. They're not taking my physical pain seriously. And after that, we released this energetic block, healed my, let's say, 12-year-old self, saying, no, people do care. They just didn't really know what was happening inside. They didn't really understand. They were giving an easy solution, and I was feeling real feelings. So when coming back to the present moment, I bend over and pick up a sock and my back clicked, I had to check myself and say, what was I just thinking about? Was I just thinking that nobody cared? Then I put my hand on my back and said, oh, I care. You're an old emotional wound, you're healing and you're getting better, and the pain would go away.
I
And
just love that you shared your story because from firsthand experience myself, every time I would hurt myself or fall, if I would just look about a minute before that accident or in that last minute, what was my state of mind? What was
yes,
I upset about? And have a level of awareness of what I needed to create an injury in order to give myself more love and support.
right.
I just think that's so brilliant. So now you're helping your clients not only recognize that and uncovering the root cause of this issue, but even giving them greater level of awareness for a future experience.
Right. Correct. So now we have the mind-body awareness of the story that's contained in the wound.
Mm.
And so now we can be the loving adult that we didn't have then, and we can tell ourselves, you're not alone, you are supported, right? I'm helping you, and you're bringing about that eternal healing until that loop is broken.
I was going to say, it goes back to we all want to be seen, held, and heard. That's what the little inner child, when you say you're 12-year-old, I guess you referring to like the inner child work of like
Yes.
somewhere along as a child, we get
Mhm.
these messages and that child is damaged and can't fully become the full version of Patricia or Priscilla when we
Right.
experience these things and take them internally as a truth when they're not. They're just bad programming.
Right. So what happens is the subconscious mind will create a belief system with the intellect that you have at the time this story is being cemented in your subconscious. It's a fallback system. So my story was I was 12 years old. I was having this pain. My hypnotherapist brought me back to the first time I had that pain. And this is the story that unfolded. And then my belief system, because of that, became that, look, even if I'm in pain, no one cares. And so rather than saying, oh, my back hurts, I can now say, I really am struggling and I need some help doing some of this work. Rather than holding that belief inside and not speaking your truth, you can say, wow, I really feel overwhelmed and I feel like I don't have enough help. And now I can express that, right? Rather than screaming, you don't help me. Nobody's picking up after themselves,
Love
right?
that.
So we can come from that truth is this is way too much for me.
What a powerful healing modality you've used the hypnotherapy with. How does this blend in with bioenergetics in your practice?
It's really been huge. I was introduced to bioenergetics when I was looking for something more. And it really, the science is right there with the bioenergetic system that we use, right? So people have in the left brain can now see science supporting that these organs and systems do manage emotions and stories in our life. So a lot of times people will try to heal, and the missing component is really the energy and emotions. We have people going for all this healing work and wondering, why can't I get better? What's wrong with me? Oh, there's always something wrong with me. And eventually they've created this belief system that they'll never be well. There's always something wrong with me. So that is a very great place to start. But people don't typically see that. Well, I don't believe that I'll never get well, but you keep saying it. So we're programming the body to always produce a symptom when we're looking for, oh, look, something else is wrong with me. So we want to break that loop. With bioenergetics and the voice scan that we use, we get priorities on what emotion needs assistance right now. And that can be a really great way to start with our clients and say, where is this feeling of hopelessness coming from? And that's a great door opener because physicians don't always have an opportunity or are not trained in this area and don't see the correlation. But we can bridge that.
Right. And so on the scan, they show all the different areas of the body and they give a 1 to 4 number rating on where the priorities are for emotions. So if you have a 4 around the throat, that
Mhm.
correlates to like a larynx or a thyroid issue of not speaking your truth. And so
Right.
every physical has an emotion. Is that how you would describe?
Correct. Do you have the life journey screens?
Yes.
Even in the life journey portion of it, we can get really good information on feelings and emotions. So the way I explain the scan to people is everything in our body vibrates on its own frequency, and our voice is the wind instrument that produces an orchestra of our own unique bioenergetic imprint, right? And nobody else has the same voice. And then the software is kind of like the maestro who can tell which instrument needs to be tuned up. So when we speak, and it only takes 10 seconds, we get a wealth of information that takes, for me, it's an hour to just go through priorities, but there's so much information there, like people can just really do a deep dive. So we start there. Maybe bladder comes up, right, on your energy driver. And then later on, we're seeing where that opens the door to discuss fear. I'm not afraid, Patricia, they might say.
Right.
I'll say, maybe not today, but you've been
Right.
storing this fear here. And let's talk about how long that's been going on. So that might be the door opener to use hypnosis to have the mind and the body bring us back to the point in time when we first started storing fear and start to release the root cause of the fear. And then we know it just blossoms, right? Like you plant a flower and it just gets so abundant that we keep trying to cut it back and we have to get to the roots.
I love them. You're helping them rewrite a story of a life without fear, which most people, they don't realize how much fear is inhibiting them. The other thing I want to touch on because I'm so fascinated, you are a master practitioner in the GIST method. And how do you help your clients with GIST?
Thank you. I did want to talk about that also. So, yes, with just gratitude, intention, surrender, and trust. My clients do not use a journal that we are familiar with, but I do have them work with their own journal. One of the things to stop the loop at bedtime is people get so hung up on what went wrong during the day, but I have them really use their gratitudes at bedtime. So when we say goodnight, give me three things that you loved about today, because that's authentic, right? So many people read affirmations that aren't authentic for them, and it's hard for them to really buy into it. So this works with my clients because it forces them to look at what three things were really beautiful or made me laugh or I accomplished today. And then eventually that becomes a habit. So they can set their intention in the morning. For example, I'm going to look for 3 to 5 things that made me happy. This is very basic for some people because they don't know always where to start and don't even believe they could do it. But now at bedtime, you're setting a new pathway to success or joy by looking for it. And you'll blip it in your subconscious during the day. And then when they're in that moment at bedtime, they can feel the feelings like that was really good rather than the stress. And they start to see this could be done. I can actually see happiness during the day. Surrendering to our intentions or letting go, like something's that out of my control. So can I surrender to that and trust, right, that everything's going to work out the way that I wanted to? So we start very baseline and then we begin to build off of that. Once people start to trust that, oh, it's working, it's like riding a bicycle.
I
Then,
love that. And it's almost on the scale of consciousness, you're taking them from like the low emotions that they're living in, from anger, fear, shame, guilt, all of that stuff. And as they get more gratitude, they start to raise their vibration. And then they can actually have safety and trust and surrender. And then that's the high point of manifestation. We can't manifest in a low vibrational state of energy.
right. Because we have these underlying interference, right? It's all interference. And so the more we desire something, the more interference we create.
Interference reminds me of coherence, but I also loved your orchestra analogy, which I'm
Oh,
totally
thanks.
that the scan is the conductor and your voice, and it's looking for where in your whole body are the instruments not quite up to tune, or it could be,
Right.
maximized, supported, so that the orchestra could come together for an even more beautiful version.
It's true because imagine, what I would further say to my client is that let's say the orchestra just sounds off and the conductor will stop everything, get that first violin, right, to play the note. And then when everything is in tune, it's beautiful, right? It's magnificent. And so think about one thing like fear, which is huge, right? But it's also an illusion, but we feel it. And so if that one piece of fear was eliminated, how could your body move? How beautiful would things be in your life if we could just take that fear, address it, and remove it from that storage unit within the body, wherever it's been sitting.
Oh,
So,
Patricia, you have such wonderful wisdom to help people. And I know you have a new course coming out called Body Wisdom Breakthrough. What is this offering that you have coming?
so the body wisdom breakthrough is basically the system I've been using that we've been talking about, helping practitioners particularly work with their clients to help them move the energy that's been stuck. Why haven't we been seeing progress? This can be done in 5 sessions. So gaining the trust of the client, helping the client or a patient find out where in the body I'm feeling this, easily moving in through what story is this? How long has this been going on? Essentially, what we've been talking about until finally, in the last session, they can future pace themselves into being this whole being that they're really trying to accomplish, but have not taken the deep dive into the emotions. So many people discount the emotions and the stories, and we as bioenergetic practitioners have these great tools here, but we also don't always have the time to do that dive. So this will give practitioners an extra step. It can either be spoken face to face, it can be done online, which is how I work, 100% online. Most people meet me from their bedrooms. and really enjoy releasing that energy and finding huge breakthroughs in their health once they free up that energy. So this course is designed to help practitioners learn how to speak to the body, how to make their clients aware of these little nuances in the body that we've never been taught to listen to. And then eventually the client will begin to learn how to do it on their own, unless it's really deep, right? But like, ooh, if I say, oh, that's a little backache, I mean, it could happen to me right now. And I could say, now, what was I just thinking about? Oh, right. Let's release that. That's not true. And then I'm fine. And so people will eventually learn how to do that on their own. But it needs the practitioner to show them that they can do it and they can release it. So it's just another tool to help people help their clients.
Is it a series of classes?
There's one course, but within the course, it breaks it down so that a practitioner can meet 5 times with their client. It can be shortened once people start to learn the technique or the practitioner learns it, but I've staged it out very simply to understand what's the connection, how do we get people into their body when so many people are living outside of it to come back in.
What's your advice to help somebody feel safe in a session or to get back into their body? We are encountering people who are always in fight or flight. How do you create that space, especially if it's a first-time client?
So this is in the course also. There is an introductory session. It's done very gently where I teach a very gentle induction. It's basically guided journey,
Mm.
and it gets people to see that they can be relaxed. And once they start to get into a relaxed state, I take them on a little journey where they find tidbit about themselves that creates hope, right? And we want to get the subconscious mind on board to say, oh, this is safe, this is good. And when a person starts to see, like, I can get information, maybe there is hope, right? We get hope, we get information, and then we get to the next step, right? But it has to start with they need to feel hope first. And then they're ready. Usually, if they are successful and they go along with the process, then they're usually ready to go deep diving. But we as the practitioner need to maintain boundaries, know when to push and know when to give the client space to say, okay, we need to observe they're not quite ready for this knowledge yet. So then we're going to leave it in a certain safe space and we'll come back and explore it in the future when they are ready. But it does have to be a little progress so that they trust you and they trust themselves,
Right.
right? So you can bring them to a certain space, but they may be afraid of their own story. So we kind of have to be gentle.
I love that. So how do practitioners sign up for this course?
They can contact me through my website, juleshypnosis.com, or send an email to patricia@juleshypnosis.com.
Are you taking individual clients on?
I am. I am taking on individual clients, and most recently, the last 2 years, I've been working with clinics, and so I've been helping the clinics' clients through bioenergetics and some hypnosis. So that's been helping their clients get their big breakthroughs as well.
Oh, I love that. Well, Patricia, I love to ask people as we wrap up things, if you had the ability to speak to all souls on the planet, what's some wisdom that you think that every soul needs to understand?
Every soul needs to know that they can make these breakthroughs. The ones that are struggling, there are solutions, and that we really just need to love and trust each other, right? We need to be united.
Oh, I love that. Where do you see bioenergetics or the understanding of energy and the energy fields of the body in the next few years? Where do you see that field heading?
I think it's going to be huge, to be honest with you. I would say even the next 3 to 4 years, I think there's going to be a shift in all of our consciousness, and people are going to recognize that our body is designed to heal. Our mind gives it the stories that prevent it. And of course, there's things out in the outer world that add to that, but our mind is so powerful. People are going to begin to see the power. And it's really going to change the way that we live, that we see each other. Illness is going to shift, and it's going to be a huge revolution.
Well,
I'm excited. I'm very excited.
so when you said raising consciousness, are we all going to come in more to what I'll call our psychic gifts, our ability to know things?
Yeah, I see that happening. I mean, more and more people aren't even aware that they're doing it already. Like my brother will say to me, I don't know why every time I wake up, I know what time it is before I look at the clock.
It's the little things, right, that are showing.
Yeah, and I'm like, you're so connected. He's like, no, I just know what time it is when I wake up. Or he'll say, I know who's calling me before I even look at the phone, but will deny that there's any
That he
connection.
has a gift or that he has this insight knowing that most
Yes,
people don't haven't yet quite come into.
right. So I think most people already have this happening, but they're not allowing themselves to know the
Mhm.
truth, right? It's a coincidence.
Yeah. Someone said, I was saying to me recently that, the things that we say are magic, or I can't believe that just happened. That's supposed to happen all the time.
Right. It is supposed to happen all the time. And we get in our own way because our ego is just too big. We want to make logic out of everything, and we can't make logic out of everything. That's the other thing I'll say about emotions is we spend a lot of time trying to understand our emotions. Emotions are not logical. So the ego and the intellect can't really understand it. If we could better say, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling happy, we can add energy to being happy by acknowledging it, or we can take energy away from the sadness by going, yeah, I do feel sad. Take out the logic and just be with what is. And know that, the magic is there. The magic.
All around us, if we have the consciousness to see it, and that's so exciting. Well, is there anything we haven't touched on?
I don't think so. I appreciate being on the show today.
Oh my gosh, Patricia, thank you. I'm so grateful that I got this opportunity to connect with you again because you are a beautiful mentor in my life and a fellow bioenergetic practitioner.
Yes,
We are from the same tribe, as I like to say. We see
I,
the world in the same way, which
we
is
do. We do. I'm so grateful for you and meeting you and, having the opportunity to connect in the way that we do. It's really been a blessing. It's been wonderful. And I'm looking forward to staying connected and speaking again soon.
Are you ready for your Energy4Life bioenergetic nest scan? Dr. Larissa Sharapova and myself, Priscilla Koblenz, offer personal, private, 90-minute consults to get you back to optimal health and well-being. And starting in the new year, we're offering an Energy Mastery Program, a monthly membership, which will give you access to a monthly scan as well as 2 group masterclasses to help you optimize your wellness in the new year. For more details, visit the show notes or check out harmonicalignment.co. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Harmonic Alignment. If something resonated with you, we would love to hear about it. Please consider leaving us a 5-star review and subscribing so you don't miss an upcoming episode. Thank you. The information contained in this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider. Carefully read all labels and directions. The products and information received through the podcast should not be used to replace a consultation or advice from your healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem or have any healthcare questions, please promptly call your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Dr. Larissa Sharapova and Priscilla Koblenz and the producers, are not responsible for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained in this podcast. This podcast may contain endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct financial benefit to the product or services referenced.